Hey there, today I'm showing you how to paint this landscape with gouache. So I already put down some washi tape to get some clean borders in the end, and now I'm putting down some water to get this paper to be wet because I'm starting off with the lake and I want the paint to bleed just a little bit. By the way, this picture is by an awesome photographer that I found on Instagram, and this person takes amazing pictures of landscapes here in Austria, and I'm gonna link the Instagram profile in the description box below. Check it out, it's so awesome. Maybe I'll paint some more of these pictures because they're just amazing. So back to the painting, you can see that I already put down a little bit of blue and green, just very messily starting off. The first layer is just to get started and get down the basic colors, and I did a little bit of a gradient in the sky, just a light blue tone. And here you can see that everything is dry at that point, and I'm starting to add some to get a little bit more detailed here. I'm starting off to just get some sharper edges here. I'm using a very dark green tone. I mixed some black with green tones. I have no idea what kind of colors I'm using. I'm just really doing that very intuitively, and so should you. Just use all kinds of colors. You don't have to use the exact same colors as I did. Just use the ones that you like and just don't think about it too much. And I'm painting the basic shapes of all the mountains that I can see in the scenery, and just it looks really ugly at that point. That's the ugly stage of a painting, and just keep going and just get down the basic shapes. The mountains in the background are way lighter than the ones in the foreground, and I just start to add layer upon layer. That's what you can do with gouache, to just work on it until it looks great. And then on the left side, I'm adding in those very dark spaces. I had to alter the format a little bit because the original photo had a different format, so it's a bit squished here. But I don't mind. I kind of like the end result, so I don't mind. Also, the mountain reflection is very tall, but it's okay. And yeah, you can see that I'm adding over and over again more and more details. And if this tutorial is a little bit too fast for you, I also have a new Skillshare class in case you haven't seen it yet. It's about gouache landscapes, and it's much, much slower than this tutorial. And it's also a bit more simplified. So this piece here is a little bit more detailed, but the one in my Skillshare course is way more simplified if you're a beginner and struggle to follow along this here. Maybe start with the Skillshare course. I'm gonna link it in the description box so you can check it out. And yeah, I'm just adding more and more layers here. This piece in total just took about an hour, so it's not too complicated. I think it just looks that way because I went back and forth with lighter and darker tones, and I didn't really want to simplify it so much. I just wanted to do a pretty piece for once because I always simplify all the paintings for the tutorials, but this time I just wanted to have fun by adding in as many details as I wanted. And yeah, let me know if you can follow along this tutorial as well, or maybe it's too hard for you, so I'll for sure continue to do simpler pieces as well. You can see here that I just did the details by doing small dots, and to make them look more organic, I made sure that those aren't in a completely not really organized, so to speak. So there are more dots in certain places and less in others so that it looks more organic. They come in groups, and Yeah, I'm just adding more and more details, looking at the reference picture and checking what it's maybe lacking. And I also made those mountains on the top left a little bit lighter to indicate that there's the sun coming in. That's probably the hardest part about that piece, to make sure that the lighting is kind of correct. I didn't fully look at it and make it perfect, but I tried my best to indicate that there's the light coming at the bottom left. And I just did a lot of blending, and I'm thinking about doing another gouache Skillshare course just with the basics, with blending and everything. Let me know in the comments down below if that's something that you'd be interested in, and maybe you have certain questions about gouache. I'd love to know your questions so that I can include them in the class. And yeah, you can see I'm just adding in more of those little dots in all kinds of colors, lighter tones, darker tones, going back and forth, always looking at the reference picture. And I basically just blended the colors by using a little bit of water, not too much, and no paint, and then going over the spaces. That's the best way to blend gouache. You can see it here on this mountain in the background. And that's why I really love gouache, because it's so forgiving. You can always go back and add in lighter tones and go darker again, blend things. It can be reactivated with water, which is just such a blessing. And that's why I don't really like acrylics that much, because you can never go back. But with gouache, that's just so easy, and blending is just so much fun. And it takes a little bit of practice, but once you get used to it, it's really one of my favorite mediums. So here you can see that more and more details are appearing, and that's just basically by making sure that the lighter parts and the darker parts are there, and to make sure that the contrasts are just similar to the reference picture. And yeah, then I added in the mountains in the water as well, because they weren't there at that point, which was a bit of a hassle. It would probably have been wiser to add them at first, but it's not that bad, because I wanted to go over the darker part anyways, because it wasn't dark enough in my opinion, so it's not a big deal. And here you can see that I blended out the mountain again, just so that it would look more like water and more blurry. Here you can see that I went back in with the black parts, and I used black straight out of the tube, because gouache, it doesn't have a lot of contrast, because the dark tones dry lighter. So I used it straight out of the tube to get the darkest black possible, and it still dries really matte and way, way lighter than you would expect. But that's just how gouache is, and that's something I can live with, so it's not a big deal. I also added in those little lines so you could really know that it's water, even though they're not there in the reference picture. But I always add these little lines onto water, because I just like it that way. I think that it looks cute on water. And then I went back in and added in more details to the background, and then I was done. That's basically it. And removing the washi tape is always the most fun part, and this time it was so satisfying. And this is the finished piece. I really hope that you liked this video, and if you did so, please give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, goodbye!